happy life, or so I thought. I graduated from university and was able to get a job at the company I wanted to work at. I met my husband, Ben, after I graduated from university and got married to him when I was 25 years old. My husband had a good income and he was kind. 3 years after our marriage, we had a daughter named Deborah. Since Ben and I had enjoyed our time together, we were ready to welcome a new family member. So it was the perfect timing when we met Debbie. Life was going smoothly until one day. My name is Flora. I am 30 years old. I quit my job when Debbie was born, wanting to focus on raising her. Taking care of Debbie has been a full-time job for me. She's turning 2 years old, and she brings a smile to my face every day. Watching her grow up day by day makes me happy. Ben loves our daughter and spends time with her on his days off. On the weekends, Ben would take Debbie out for a walk or run, giving me some much needed rest time away from my support role. However, these happy days were short certain event. This happened on one of the weekends. My in-laws, Brian and Carol, suddenly moved into our house. I had only seen Brian and Carol only a few times a year until then. To be honest, I was not very fond of them. Carol did not seem to like me when her after Ben proposed to me.
I am not so sure if she is a good being my son's wife. Addition to that, she would also say mean comments such as she does in the type who had a good upbringing.
To these mean comments, I would say maybe your son was attracted to an optimistic person like me because you are a pessimistic person.
I would always argue back to her mean comments. Brian and Ben don't like to fight any troubles, so they would try to say anything back to Carol. So, from the very beginning, Carol and I did not get along at all. So why did Brian and Carol suddenly our house? Even though I was very surprised, I had no other choice but to let Brian and Kathy use our house.
Hey, Brian and Carol, what brings you here?
Are you stupid? We said in advance that we were come today, you know?
Hey, Flora, sorry. I forgot to tell you that my parents are coming today.
I thought to myself, how could he know such things? Ben has been always somewhat forget this. I quickly made enough tea for everyone.
How may I assist you today, Brian Carol?
You didn't hear anything from Ben be told him beforehand? Flora and Ben, are you both having communicating?
I thought it was none of her business. Such things. But I looked at my husband.
Ben looked really uncomfortable and spoke. Actually, I talked to my parents a year ago. Move into their house. I remember my dad broke his leg the day, right? Ever since then, I've been worried. Also, my parents are already in their 60s. Maybe it's best to move in with take care of them.
Wait a minute. Are you agreeing with the idea of moving in with your parents?
Yes. I don't think it's a bad idea.
I was in shock with Ben. Just because Ben thought it was a good idea for him doesn't mean that he should have talked to me about it when it is also an important and sensitive subject.
Flora, don't tell me that you are to this idea. Well, that's not why we're here anyway. We're interested in hearing what you have to say about this.
This is an important topic for husband and wife. Let me discuss this matter with Ben decide about it.
Carol looked at me as if I were a sass and left our house for the day. As soon as Brian and Carol left, our questioned Ben.
Ben, why didn't you say anything to me? I can't believe you're trying to make such an important decision without...
I'm sorry. I was just worried about my dad and...
being worried about your dad doesn't give you the right reason not to disrespect me by moving into your parents' house. I'm just saying that you should discuss important decisions with me before making them.
All right, I'm sorry. So then, Flora, what do you think about moving in with my parents?
Honestly, I don't want to live with parents because Carol and I don't do well.
I knew that you would say something like that. Is there any way possible for you to move into my parents with me?
Fine. Whenever she picks on me or be mean to me, you protect me from her. If you can't do this, we are going divorce, all right?
Isn't that too much?
I seriously mean it because that's why I don't get along with your mother. If you can't promise me this, I live and go back to my parents' house.
I promise that I will protect you. So don't you ever say that you will me.
Since Ben made that promise, I decided to live with his parents for a while. Of course, I would immediately move that promise is broken. And a few weeks later, we moved in and Carol.
The moment Carol greeted us, she bluntly said, "Oh, you're finally here. Well, please don't give us any trouble." She said it in such a sarcastic tone.
I then lightly nudged Ben, who was still asleep.
Ben nervously said, "Well, Mom, it was you who asked us to come live with you, so you should take the lead on this. So you won't cause us any trouble either."
Carol looked a little surprised, but quickly regained her composure and said yes. "Come on in now."
I was glad that my husband had stopped me and spoken back to Carol. And I was glad to see that he could, well, if Ben can stand up for me, I'll be able to manage living with Carol this year. After putting our luggage in our room, we had a cup of tea with Brian in the living room while listening to the rain outside. I wondered who it was, but it was my sister-in-law.
I'm home. Oh, are Ben and his family coming one today?
Yes, that's what I told you yesterday.
I couldn't understand what was going on. Is Alicia living here now? I thought she was living on her own else. What does she mean by I'm home? Is she back just for a visit or is here?
Alicia, long time no see.
Oh, hey, Flora. We are all one big family here now,
Are you living here now, Alicia?
Didn't Ben tell you anything? 3 months. Now?
Ben didn't tell me about this at all. I glared at Ben coldly.
Oh no, I forgot to tell you.
I thought to myself, this is it. 2 more strikes and he is out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. Well, we are one big family here now.
Needless to say, I scolded my husband in the room after that. Then life at Carol's house began. As expected, Carol began to bully me right away.
"Hey, Flora, why aren't you cleaning?"
What are you talking about? I clear room.
"You also haven't mowed the lawn."
Why should I have to do that?
"What? Are you speaking back to me? You should be thanking me by letting at our house.
I'm living here with Ben because worried about Brian. You asked us to live with you.
Then Alicia came and sided with Carol.
What's going on here? Flora, are you fighting my mother for your inability to do the housework? That's ridiculous.
What is this?
To me, it just seems that you just slack off and do nothing around.
To this, I angrily said, fine. Then I'll just clean up everything and cleaned Alicia's and Carol's room.
I even mowed the lawn all on my own, even though it was very hot today, while I was doing all the household chores, which Carol and Alicia made. Carol and Alicia were playing with my daughter, Debbie. I wanted to tell them not to touch my daughter with their filthy hands. Of course, I reported it to my husband, who came home from work. I asked Ben to tell them off at dinner. Later, when we were all seated around the table for dinner, Alicia and Carol complained about me.
What is this dish? Isn't it too bland?
I really do like this, and I can't finish eating this. I do know what it is, but I do like it.
I can't believe she's such a bad cook.
Then Ben put down his knife and fork and opened his mouth to speak.
Hey, Alicia and Mom, don't complain about this food, especially since Flora made it just for you.
Ben, why are you being a wuss and your wife for this? Don't you have a dignity as a husband? Do you actually believe this is good?
I love Flora's cooking. It's very delicious.
I can see that Alicia is taking this situation. Ben is not at all able to stand up Alicia and Carol for me. I never thought my husband would be unreliable. In my mind, this was the secondst, Ben. After that, bullying from Alicia didn't stop at all and continued even more. They would try to make me do all the household chores and make me run errands, and if I tried to refuse even a little, they would complain about it.
Carol told me directly that she belongs to the family, so it's natural for her to be with us.
You should treat me same as Carol, so you better do whatever I tell you to do.
Alicia said this after what Carol's. In other words, they are both saying obey to them for whatever they say. I thought Carol and Alicia must be their minds to say such a thing, since I bet there are no other in-laws like this unreasonable. I was beginning to think about how to eventually leave this situation. Then I received a call from my mother that my father had just suffered a stroke. I heard that it was not serious but hospitalized. So I packed my bags to hurry back to Father, who was staying at the hospital. When Carol saw me packing my bags on her, she said,
Flora, what are you doing?
Oh, Carol, I'm so sorry to hear about your dad. Man, he had a and is in the hospital. I'll be on my way to see him soon.
Then, to this, Carol said something outrageous.
Who said you can leave this place and there's no other way?
What do you mean?
Well, stop packing and start with the household chores.
I couldn't take it anymore. If I stayed in this house any longer, lose my mind. I ignored Carol and left her house. I went to see my father, who was in the hospital. Since I was also worried about my May, she stayed at my parents' house for a few days and helped my mother with the cooking. During my stay at my parents' house, Alicia kept on calling me with horrible messages like,
What's the matter with you, your wife? Stop skipping chores and come home at this instant.
they must be really out of their minds. I was already thinking of divorcing, leaving the house, but since I was at Carol and Alicia, I decided to them. Revenge requires a lot of preparation. So even though I wanted to not be I returned to Carol's house. Even when I returned, Carol complained to me about such nonsense. Then about half a year has passed.
One day at dinner, Carol said Excite proposed to me. She also said I'll bring him over next time.
Finally, this is it. The time for revenge had come. I thought to myself this and rejoiced.
Even though I was smiling because I thought that I could now get revenge, all of a sudden, smile disappeared and he said, "Oh, Flora, you mean a lot to me too."
A week later, Alicia brought her future husband Toby over to the house. Alicia's fiance's name is Ken, and she works as an elite for a major company with a high income. He looked very sincere, and he was for Alicia. Alicia happily introduced Ken to everyone, including me.
Carol also seemed to have no complaints. Ken and I are so grateful for your help, she said with a smile. You've given us the blessing of having Alicia in our lives.
From this point on, it was time for my revenge.
I asked Ken, after all, won't you be with your parents after you get married?
What? Oh no, I haven't decided that yet.
No, but I heard that here in this household, if your parents are over old, you have to live with them. So I thought you would live with you or with us.
No, there is no such rule in man.
Oh, I see. There are many other rules in a family, such as if you obey your in-laws, they will show gratitude towards you. Also, you can't return to your home. This is your home. When my father suffered from stroke, tried to stop me visiting my father, hospital, and instead wanted me to do household chores for them,
Ken's face was beginning to frown.
Is what Flora's saying real?
Ken asked Alicia.
No, that can't be true. Flora, just because Ken is better than Ben doesn't mean you have to be jealous and tell him that he isn't.
No, I am informing Ken what would to get married to you and giving us so that he wouldn't get any divorce wreck, nothing.
Saying that, I played the voice recording, which had all the recordings of Carol bullying me right in front of everyone. Alicia and Carol's face turned pale. As soon as Ken finished listening to all recordings, he stood up and said that,
I'm sorry, but the wedding is off. This is my final goodbye. And I said he left the house.
Alicia and Carol was in shock and sown cry. When I saw them crying, I really felt sorry for them. Then I packed my belongings and left this house with Debbie for good. I left my divorce paper on the table. When he found the divorce papers, I begged him not to sign them because I knew he was unreliable as a husband. Then, a few days later, he informed me that he had signed the divorce papers and set them aside for me to sign. I'm so angry at him for backing down easily and not fighting for me at that time. He wasn't manly enough from the beginning. It was the best decision to divorce. As for Carol, according to a neighbor close by, both Ben and Alicia have been staying at her house like parasites. But they don't do any housework. It's Carol who has to do all the chores now. Furthermore, I heard that Alicia had to quit her job and live in poverty after her engagement was broken off, relying solely on her father's pension. Ben also wants to spend money on his hobbies, so he doesn't bring anything more into the house. Well, it's none of my business anymore, but I do feel sorry for Brian, who has a really useless family. On the other hand, I'm working a hard job again. While my parents are helping to raise my daughter at home, my daughter is growing up fast, and she's been trying her best to tell me about the events at her kindergarten. Seeing her like that makes me happy. Will continue to devote myself to or thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel and like button. See you in the next video. I had a